Hello, everyone. I want to welcome everyone to Electric's Elevate 2022 breakout session, Managing in Volatile Markets, Money, Motivation, and Morale. It's difficult enough to really try to recruit and retain talent in a regular market. But now that we have inflation, staffing shortages, and a looming recession, and crisis upon crisis upon crisis, today we're going to talk about some ways that some business leaders have um, approached those challenges. My name is Tia Gordon, and I'm the VP of People at Issue. I will be your moderator for today's breakout panel discussion. And again, today we're going to talk through compensation, hiring, and people management in these highly inflationary and volatile market during these times. Volatile markets, managing in volatile markets really should be the top of mind of business leaders. And I'm thrilled to be a part of this discussion with a few forward thinking business leaders. They're going to share their perspective on this topic, and every one of our panelists has vast experience around this topic. Without further ado, I would like to introduce Eva.
Thanks, Tia. Hi, everyone. My name is Eva McCluskey. My pronouns are she, her. I'm the managing director of people operations for a company called Recognition Media. We honor the best creative and digital work in the world through various programs like the Webby Awards, Telly Awards, Communicator Awards, and more. Happy to be here.
Excellent. Thank you. And Maya.
Hi, all. I am Maya, pronoun she, her, hers. I am the Chief People Officer at Juve Consulting, which is a purpose driven marketing company that helps clients better reach and understand Gen Z. And there I oversee hiring, retention, recruitment, social impact, as well as EDIB and HR consulting. Excited to be here as well. Excited to chat.
Excellent. Thank you. And Dawn.
Good morning from the West Coast, everybody. Dawn Sharafin, pronouns are she and her. I'm the former SVP of Slack and have been taking this summer off doing some own personal coaching and consulting. Excited to be with you this morning.
Excellent. And last but not least, Alexander.
Thank you, Tia. My name is Alexander Waldarsky. I'm a founder of a time marketplace called Lemon.io. We're 18 million per year company with 73 people in the team.
Excellent. Thank you. Well, I'm excited to be sharing the stage with you all today. For the audience, I do ask if you can drop your comments and questions in the chat, and we will save some time to answer those questions at the end of the session. And without further ado, let's go on to question number one. We're seeing a lot of volatility in the market, the labor market right now. We have staffing shortages, inflation, so much economic uncertainty. There's a lot for business leaders to contend with. Maya, I'd like to throw this first question over to you. How has that impacted your people strategy in this past year?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it's safe to say that all of those things have impacted every company's people strategy, and it's up to that company to really determine what makes the most sense for them. And for us, one thing that I discuss with my team, as well as our clients that we consult with on the HR side, is that really looking at this time and this place for all of us as an opportunity for folks to really explore your company and really invest in the current folks that are operating here at Juve. So for us, we really shifted our efforts to really retaining and motivating our team, because we believe that our company is our people, right? And for us, it's super important that they feel supported where they are, because for them, they're also dealing with these things. It's not just us as business leaders, it's also them as employees coming into this space and having to still work day to day. So shifting our efforts to really retaining and motivating our team. And more specifically for us, that looked like revamping our performance review process and conducting and planning to conduct goal setting exercises to really affirm for our team that we care about their personal goals and their personal growth, even at a time like this. And it's not just about caring about them as folks that are operating as a function within the company. That also included for us rolling out incentive and commission plans for work that we know that they do enjoy that they do enjoy to do and that they really love doing, and investing in continuing to build community amongst the team. And then the last thing is just being transparent. I know that sounds simple, but I know that tough conversations are tough, for lack of better words, but being transparent with your team about where the company currently is and what we're able and capable to do at this time for you is super important. And of course, that may mean that we may lose some people along the way, but that's okay too, right? But it is important that we as a company are integral and honest and transparent about where we are, what we can do to support you at this time.
I love that. Thank you so much. I'd like to open up to any of our other panelists in case they had anything they'd like to add.
I think Maya hit it right on that.
I was going to say, that's like a mic drop to me.
Transparency. Yeah.
That was a mic drop.
I couldn't agree more. And you're right. Transparency, while it sounds easy and it sounds like it's something that we all should be doing, there's a process to make sure it's being done right. Well, thank you very much for that. Excuse me. With all of the external factors in the market, it can obviously affect morale and employee engagement. Eva, I'd like to throw this over to you. What can business leaders do to foster a positive workplace culture in these times of uncertainty?
I'm going to bring it back to transparency again. I think that communication is so key to building an open culture, to promoting employee well-being. It's one of the easiest and challenging but most critical ways that you can build that open culture so that folks are comfortable. Clear is kind, right? I think another important piece is leading with empathy. This is like one of the most important leadership skills that folks can be developing right now to have in our current environment. And it leads to more innovation, higher employee engagement, increased productivity. The list goes on and on. And I think finally, it's important to really recognize that leaders can only do so much, right? We've got to recognize and accept that we can't control what's going on out there. The layoffs, the inflation, the stock market, the capital R recession, potential recession, whatever your point of view is. We can only focus on what we can control ourselves, how we lead day to day, our attitude, our ethics, our work ethic, our mindset, how we respond to stress, all of it. So it's a lot, but that's what I would say.
It is quite a bit. And I think you hit the nail on the head. I couldn't agree more. Leading with empathy, it's a skill set that, I've had to help many of the business leaders learn over these past 3 years, more so than ever, because, everyone's situation is different and we shouldn't treat everyone as one. So I think that that resonated with me. So thank you.
Critical.
It is.
Critical.
It really is. Any other insights?
Yeah, I think both Eva and Maya had really nailed it. Just something helped us through the time we worked through, as everyone, through 2020, and on my team, and I was also in Ukraine, and we went through that crisis too. And celebrating small wins, even smallest wins, give people a lot of energy, even if it's not as important in business in general, but even small things give people more purpose, especially our team being at war right now. You cannot see a big win coming very soon, but having wins at work celebrated, and people being recognized, means a lot.
That small wins are everything. when I feel like there's so much to do, and sometimes we forget and we lose sight of those small wins. So that's an excellent point, Alexander. Always celebrating the small wins, because when you see the bigger picture that's so far down the road, you forget the progress that you made. So thank you for highlighting that as well. Okay, and excuse me. There's so much going on, and for growing businesses with plans to hire, what do they need to know about recruiting right now? How is inflation going to impact compensation packages and as well as the pool of available talent?
I think that was to me, right, Tia?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. Sorry about that.
No, all good, all good. Here's behind the curtain, team. We kind of prepped who would take what question before. Now you know what it's like when it's being on a panel.
Yes.
So I think, inflation's running about 8% right now. I don't know any company that has a budget for merit for increases of 8%. I mean, if you do, that's awesome and great. I just don't know many of them right now. So first thing I would say is it's pretty easy for people to switch jobs and get a pretty nice increase, right? And so if you're not able to pay them currently, they're going to change. So what that means is, I saw a Gallup poll yesterday, 70% of people are looking to change jobs, but only 36% are actively looking. Okay. And that's because people are scared of the macroeconomic climate. They know they can make more money someplace else. They know they can kind of fill that gap with the inflation and all of that, but they're scared. They like the safety and stability of what they think they have in their current place. But I also don't want to jump over that too fast. That's 36%. That's potentially a third of your organization that could be looking to leave. So I think recruiting, even though, we probably have I work in HR, many good friends who have recruiters who have been laid off recently, like that is not going away anytime soon. And so what I would say is you're going to have really great talent on the market right now because there has been some significant layoffs. So some talent you might not have been able to get before. The second thing is there's still going to be a demand for niche roles. So that could be technical, that could be, a specific type of engineer or mechanic or whatever the case may be. And then there's also those roles where you've seen people just have an exodus where they leave. So the supply and demand is off. So nursing, teaching, HR, things like that, the supply and demand is just off a little bit. So one I would say is you're going to have probably more ample talent in some areas than you would have thought. It might take more to get people to come. And then the other thing I will say, I don't know, I hope this has not happened to anyone else here, but I've had many people in my network say they've accepted offers and then they've been rescinded as the company's gone through changes. So be really clear on what the role is you're trying to hire before you get there. You don't want to ding to your employment brand in that regard. And it's not a kind thing to do to a human as well. So be clear on what the role is, be clear on that you can support it before you go out to market. And I think you'll probably find that for some roles, you're going to be hiring people you didn't think you could get 6 months ago. And you probably be paying a little bit more in some cases. Oh, and then the other thing I wanted to say is keep an eye on the compensation gap between the people you bring in and then the people you have currently in your company, because you might be paying a little bit more. And so there might be unintended consequence for that comp. So just make sure you kind of keep an eye on internal equity as you bring in new hires as well.
Excellent.
And be looking at that total comp, right, Dawn? Like it's not just that base salary. What are the softer bits that are going to keep people retained, engaged, excited, and up that value that maybe can't be matched on a base salary.
I love that you said that. That's such a great point. I was focusing on the money because we were talking about inflation, but what is your employer brand? What is your your EVP, your employer value proposition? Can they go to their kid's soccer game at 3:00? Are you able to work from home? Do they have fertility benefits that are particularly important to you in your life right now? Whatever those things are, making sure that you're communicating that in a broad way, because candidly, some companies don't have the dollars right now. So what is it? Are you mission-based? What are you doing? Do you have mentorship, career opportunities? Make sure you're selling the entire package.
Mm-hmm. Those are excellent points. And I've been on both sides, a company that did have the 9 and 10% budget for the, to try to match inflation. But I've also been at companies where, unfortunately, they weren't able to provide an increase for a year. And it's really, like you said, you both hit the nail on the head. And what else do we have? What else do we have to offer? What do our employees really want? So one thing that we also do, or I love to do wherever I'm at, is ask. I don't want to assume. Ask.
Mhm.
And that's, through engagement surveys, employee roundtables, see what really motivates the employee. Because again, no two employees are alike. What motivates me may not motivate you. And that's okay. But, I don't make any assumptions. I want to know. And I want to,
Mhm.
because, what motivates you today may not motivate you tomorrow as well. So I ask, and I ask often. And though I can't accommodate everything, we have dialogue, we have discussions, and just the discussions alone opens up, a world of wonder, because people feel valued by having their concerns heard, or their, what their asks are. And then we talk about, well, we can't do this, and this is why. So it's
Mhm.
all about, we talked about communication and transparency. Those really are key to getting through this volatile market.
And it goes both ways, right, Tia? Like you've got to ask, but then you've also got to be willing to report back often and regularly. And that communication has got to come from, a result of distilling and thinking about all that info that you're getting in from all of your employees, but making sure that you give it back to them so that they understand that their values are looked after and are being thought of.
Exactly. It's a two-way communication path.
And the other thing I love about what you said, Tia, was it really pushes some accountability and responsibility to the employee as well, right? I know earlier in my career, I used to be like, do you want this? What about this? What about, you want pet insurance? Do you want this? Do you want that? You want this? And it wasn't hitting the nail on the head. But then when you ask, what are your needs? It forces the employee to reflect back and say, actually, what do I value? What do I need? Oh, actually, this place is pretty good because it hits 9 out of 10 of the things on my box, or whatever the case may be. But it's a partnership versus, an employee coming to you and saying, what have you done for me lately? And I think especially in volatile times, that partnership, that teamwork, like that's how you get through kind of those choppy waters.
Exactly. Well, thank you both. Excuse me. Now on to another question. Retention of top talent is obviously important, and with budgets even tighter than usual at the moment, how are we as business leaders able to really hold on to those high performing employees that we don't want to see, take another job that may be offering a 30 or 40% increase? Dawn, I'd love.
Sure. And I'd love for anybody else to jump in, because I think we've touched on a bunch of this. I think Maya gave a great summary in the beginning too. But what I would say is, one, just acknowledge or know that corporations, employees have been making deductions from the corporation bank account, right? And that is just because it feels shaky, whether your company had layoffs, whether your company, whatever your company did was in the news. I don't know if you saw the Beyond Meat CEO guy like bit somebody on the nose, whatever that is. Corporations are just they're not really trusted by employees right now. So the number one thing I think you could do is, how can you make deposits back into that trust account? And it's been some of the things that we've talked about. Transparency, right? California, I see you coming in January with your pay transparency. How are you going to deal with that? What's the plan? What's that going to look like? How are you going to communicate that? What gaps are you going to fill? I think so. People, like, you want to just continue to build the trust. What I found is that people will ride with you in the choppy waters if they trust that you're going through it, right? It's when they don't know what's going to happen, or that you're going to throw them overboard at the first chance, then it's like, well, I got to look out for myself, right? So transparency. Number 2, we hit on this earlier, communication. You can feel like you've said it, say it again and again and again. right? And many, many times. And when the absence of information, people they fill in their own story, and it's usually the worst case scenario, right? I've had people on my team come to me and say, "Oh, well, I assumed it," and I was like, "Wow, how'd you get from here to there?" But I missed that middle word. The other thing I would say is, and Maya hit on this lovely really earlier, career development, career pathing. What does that look like? What is the opportunity? Sometimes in chaos is where great opportunity can come, and so again, with accountability to the employee, what do you want to get out of this? Oh, okay. Let's see if we can make that happen. Right. And maybe it'll be like a dog year and you will have 1 year, but you will have learned so many things in that year. Or maybe you'll get an opportunity to interact with a client or a customer that you wouldn't have before. What does that look like for you? What do you want? The other thing is just simple gratitude. I think, like we talked about empathy earlier, like thank your employee, but also be specific. What are they doing that's adding? What are you truly grateful for that they're adding, or how are they making an impact? Like simple thank you goes a long way. Feeling appreciated goes a long way. And the last thing I'll say is like, how can you inject just 1% more playfulness into your work life, into your environment, right? With very few exceptions, most of us are not curing cancer. Very few people are on the operating table. So what can we do to bring joy and play into our world? Alexander was telling us before we jumped on that he is traveling for work and he's been in a hotel room. And so he had the great idea to just do a walk and talk around the city that he didn't get to see, right? They still had the meeting, they still had the conversation, but it got to be just a little bit more playful. Okay. And please, anyone else jump in.
I love that.
I don't have much to add, but just talking about the people assuming and adding to the story just give me chills, because I'm reliving every day probably, and it's not just people. It's not about people trying to I don't know how to say this, but trying to create drama or something. This is how they see it. You think you're transparent now, but you're not, and even you think you're transparent, assume that you're not. And even saying things over and over again, I agree, I do this all the time, and also it feels all the time not enough. And it's not only about the top talent, to be honest, it's all the talent. We're a much smaller team, and we feel it on every level of employees of the team, and that's really true. One thing that is also important, especially for the top talent, especially for the management, is showing really to everyone, it's showing that you're in the same boat. It's not like they are working at the galley and you're writing it. So a lot of people would feel like that, okay, I'm actually sweating and you're winning. Showing that you're in the same path. When 2020, we thought we didn't want to let people go. We're a much smaller team, but we didn't want to let people go. So we said we're gonna, if we hit the crisis, we're gonna be cutting salaries for everyone, and we'll start from us. So they felt like we're in the same boat. That's also very important for us.
I just want
walking that walk, right? You can't just pay lip service to how you're going to all suffer if the folks at the tippy top of the business aren't living it, maybe on a deeper level than the folks getting less base salary compensation, right? Critical.
Right. Excellent. I just want to quickly click on the communication. One thing that I learned early in my career is the 7x7 method. I think it's a marketing method where you communicate 7 times, 7 different ways. And then Alexander, like you said, as much as you communicate, sometimes people still don't get it. So communicate. And we're going to wrap it up pretty soon. But one last question. We live in such unpredictable times that planning for the future can seem almost impossible. Do you have any thoughts on, what we can expect in the year ahead, or any advice for business leaders that are in the session for how they can prepare for the unknown? Yeah. Alexander, I'd like to, if you'd like to kick us off.
Yeah, to be honest, this is a little bit tricky question because the future for everyone is very different. For one company, it's, they have to do layoffs and they have to actually, be in this and suffer from losing the talent. the other company, smaller companies, especially startups, they're winning from this. They can actually have more talent being available. They have less competition with the top companies. Before that, they have to compete like with every thing company, their salaries and compensations. Now they have more access. And to be honest, tricky. I can say what it's for us. We have slightly different story because again, like we have to deal not just with a crisis, but actually we're going through war. Like in the morning, start was like who has electricity, who doesn't have electricity, and we're like planning, having electric generators and Starlinks in the company. So planning is important, and again, like planning is just like putting this in a bucket, but actually executing and being transparent about it. For us, again, I feel like a little outlier because we actually, as the marketplace of talent, most of talent that we help companies to hire is offshore. So because of crisis, a lot of companies are hiring more offshore, and our market is growing. As a startup, as a small team, we're actually benefiting from crisis a little in terms of we have more access to talent that was not available for us before.
Yeah.
Excellent.
I'm happy to chime in.
Sure, please.
I think I would say two things. I think the first thing that I would say is one, more and more employer branding matters. Obviously, we all as a company have a brand to our consumer or to other businesses, but what do you represent to the folks who are interested in working for your company? More and more, we see companies having pages like what it's like to work at Meta and showing what a day-to-day looks like for different types of employees. We have Estee Lauder on TikTok being like, hey, these are our Gen Z mentors, and these are what they're teaching our top executives, right? Or even ourselves at Juve, our main way that we get potential candidates for jobs is through social media, through our TikTok, through Instagram. It's because people are going to a lot of these public places to see what it is like to actually work at your company, and not just the Glassdoors, right? Obviously, those things are still important, but actively seeking that information. And then the second thing that I would say is that impact is certainly becoming more and more important to exist outside of one department, but throughout your entire organization. And I think that both of these points have been sort of proven through the reasons that people have stated about igniting the Great Resignation. I mean, 57 million people have left their jobs between, I believe it was January of 2021 to February of 2022. And it's not just for higher pay, and it's not just for better benefits, but it's also because I don't necessarily align with you as a company, right? So impact and showcasing who you are as an employer is going to be more and more important as we continue to go on.
Excellent points. Well, I will go ahead and wrap us up. It looks like we are at the top of our half hour. And I thank you all for this wonderful panel discussion today. And I look forward to the rest of today's Elevate session. And feel free to reach out to any of us through LinkedIn, and we'd love to continue the conversation. So thank you all.
Thanks.
Thank you for the time. Great to
Thank
be
you.
with you.
Thank you. And you can also find us on the Elevate site. All right. Well, thank you all. I hope you have a good rest of your day.
Thanks, y'all.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.